I was raised in Los Angeles. I grew my family in San Diego, and for 60 plus years I've been looking for the perfect small town, and I know that I found it in Cedar City. And you don't find a perfect town, and you don't have a perfect town without perfect leadership. So I've asked our great mayor here, who is that leader, to come speak to us today, but I want to tell you a little bit about her first. Maile Wilson Edwards was born and raised in Cedar City, Utah. She was elected as Cedar City's youngest and our first female mayor in 2013, and re-elected to her second term in November of 2017. Her grandfather, Warren Witten, has also served 2 terms as mayor of Cedar City. In 2018, Mayor Wilson married her sweetheart, Dr. Jason Edwards. And I just found out he's going to be doing my 2 cataracts next week, or 2 weeks from now. So I better not screw this up real week. Sticking me in the eyeballs. In addition to her duties as mayor, she is an attorney with Jones, Waldo, Holbrook, and McDonough Law Firm. Mayor Wilson Edwards earned a bachelor's in political science and a master's degree in public administration from Southern Utah University. She received her Juris Doctorate degree from Charlotte School of Law in Charlotte, North Carolina, where she received honors in pro bono work and nonprofit legal management. Mayor Wilson Edwards' life has always focused on public service and policy. Her national public service record includes a White House internship with First Lady Laura Bush, working for Mitt Romney for his presidential transition team in Washington, D.C., and serving at the United States Department of the Interior. On a local level, she has worked for the city manager of Washington City, Utah. She has also worked in the Charlotte City Attorney's Office in Charlotte, North Carolina, and was a legal counsel intern at Southern Utah University. Mrs. Wilson Edwards has long been involved in community service. At a very early age, she participated in everything from community parades, the Utah Summer Games, Utah Shakespeare Festival, pageant, and other community volunteer efforts, and also participated in various ecclesiastical assignments from her church. The mayor maintains a high level of commitment to support women and women's issues, and continues to work tirelessly to build bridges between all sectors of the community's population. Mayor Wilson Edwards has deep roots in Cedar City, as her family has lived and worked in the community for more than 85 years. The festival city itself has grown up while Mayor Wilson Edwards grew up here. She has been named one of the top 5 most influential women in Southern Utah, and other accomplishments, in addition to her service and the numerous boards she serves on, are Cedar City Area Chamber of Commerce Women of the Year Award, Utah Business Magazine's 30 Women to Watch, Attorney at Law Magazine's Attorneys to Watch in 2017, Utah National Guard Honorary Commander of the 65 Field Artillery Brigade, and Utah's representative at the U.S. Army War College National Security Seminar in person. And there's more and more and more, but I'm not going to bore you. I'm going to turn it over to Mayor and give her a big hand.
This one?
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. You're old? You're not that old.
Well, thank you so much for having me here today. So, I have my presentation, but before my presentation are a couple of things that have nothing to do with being in the presentation that I want to let you all know about. One is, many of you know about our long-standing sister city with Gapyeon, South Korea, and the impact that the Rotary Club and all of you have had with our Veterans Park and that phenomenal area of town that we have. It's one of my favorite spots to take businesses, to take visitors, all of that. to commemorate the 70th anniversary with the Korean War and with our amazing 213th at the time, soldiers did at the miracle of Gapyeon County, their delegation was going to come over this year and bring a stone commemorating all of the amazing things that our military did to free that county. Well, COVID hit, and travel is what travel is, and travel from South Korea to the United States has been on hold. In one of the ports in California, this beautiful stone is being held up in customs. Once the stone arrived, which was supposed to have happened 2 weeks ago, and then we continued to get slightly difficultly translated emails of updates. As soon as the stone arrives, we have worked with Paul Monroe, and there are a number of companies in town that have generously, as soon as they kind of hear the story and the connection between us and Gapyeon and why this is important, they have donated their services, and we will be placing the stone and dedicating it over in the Veterans Park near the Korean War Memorial. And so I did want to give, I didn't know how much you all collectively knew about that, but when we have a more firm date, we'll let Paul know, obviously, and then when we have a date to do a dedication ceremony, Sunny Lee, who some of you may have known, she was so instrumental in all of this. She tragically passed away, and so we will be coordinating with her family as well to do the dedication ceremony, since the dignitary from Gapyeon will not be able to travel here this year. Another aspect, I don't know how many, looking around, most of you know Kit Wareham, our city engineer that was the city engineer for 27 years. He is retiring at the end of this month. And so on October 30th from 2 to 4, we are, he was not thrilled at the idea of a party. I kind of didn't give him a choice with all of the years of service for the community to come and get one last chance to recognize him in that role. So from 2 to 4, the lobby of Festival Hall, we will be having Kit's retirement ceremony. So with that, let's see. Oh, it works. So 2020 has been a very interesting year. It started out with Shakespeare Festival closed, travel ban. The interesting thing, so the tax numbers that I have in here, our tax numbers from the tax commission are at least 2 months behind the information we get. So I try to have as up-to-date of information, but bear with me that some of the numbers, we have that lag. So transient room tax this year versus 2019, to kind of give you a perspective of where we were and where, the whole point of this is I wanted to let you know where we have been and where we're going, and that what you see on the national news and what you see in other parts, even of Utah, is not the reality here in Cedar City. Our trajectory is super positive, and you will see that the theme throughout this whole presentation is a puzzle, because our puzzle pieces are falling into place even during this pandemic and crazy time we're living in. So hotels, we hit, our transit room tax was as low as 60% down from the previous year. Well, as we so often do in this community, we came together with how do we not only utilize all the programs that are out there, but also work together to support our business community. And there have been, any of you who are in business know that there are so many programs that have been thrown at you The one that we are the most proud of is with the CARES Act money that the city received, we and the county worked together to try to do grants that weren't 50 pages long and weren't as convoluted to get money into the hands of our local businesses so that they can take care of our residents, keep their employees and all of that. So moving forward, Cedar City is Utah's fastest growing micropolitan, and I was so excited because I never had heard that word before we started on this presentation, and they thought it sounded really fancy, and so we're sticking with it from now on, that we're micropolitan, and why not? So our unemployment, the height of COVID hit 9.3. We're back to 4% unemployment, which tends to be a good number. I know trying to fill jobs, it's getting tougher and tougher when we were at 2.8 unemployment, it was almost impossible to fill jobs. If an employee wanted to work, they had it, and we're getting back to those numbers where there's the employment available for individuals that want it throughout our community. Here is the one that surprises the most people. Year-to-date sales tax. For versus 2019, we are one of the few places in the state that is actually up on sales tax. One of the reasons for this is you maybe realized during the summer, it didn't feel like we were in a global pandemic here in Cedar City. We realized with the Shakespeare Festival closing, with there not being summer games, we had to do something. It's always been joked around that the Shakespeare Festival is essentially our community's Black Friday. From there to the end, that's when our businesses make their money. And so we knew that for our economy to survive, for our businesses to survive, something needed to happen, and we still needed to get tourists to our town. We didn't do what the Moabs, what some of these other towns did, and essentially locked the community down. We worked within the guidelines so that people stayed safe, and we held tournaments every single weekend. We had ball fields that had been sitting vacant, and without summer games, they were going to continue to sit vacant all summer if we didn't go out and work on bringing tournaments here. So every single weekend during the summer, we had a tournament from 60 up to 100 plus teams in town. We looked at ways to revamp different events. In fact, if you were trying to get around town last weekend, you would have seen 800 plus cyclists here. That event had been canceled at every one of its other locations, and we worked with the organizers and said, come here, we will still be able to provide a safe, it was called the Belgian Waffle Ride. They started out with Belgian waffles, did 144 miles of bike ride, and ended with beer at the local brewery. So for cyclists from out of the community, waffles and beer and a bike ride was the highlight of their time, and where the event had been canceled in so many other places, it brought 800 people to our community that wouldn't otherwise have been here to spend money. It boosted the economy, it put people in hotels. It did exactly what Cedar City is known for, and the reason our community is so great is when the going gets tough, we figure out ways to make it work for our community. And so our sales tax numbers continue to go up year over date from the last year, and that's something that we're very proud of because it's not a city effort, it's truly a community effort to realize that we can still be a safe community, but we don't have to shut everything down and lock the world out. And that is kind of the importance of what we believe and the direction we wanted to go during this pandemic. As you can see, with camping, if you were in the mountains anytime this summer, we had a lot of RV wrecks. Californians decided that an RV vacation would be great. They'd just never driven one before. And so there were more RV wrecks than we'd ever experienced before, with individuals thinking that they would be substantially easier to drive. But we got through that. And then our tournaments, we were actually some of the only ball fields from California, Nevada, all of those states had shut everything down. And so also our youth had, their school had been taken away, their extracurricular, they were just craving some bit of normalcy. And so being able to come and have tournaments and be with their friends and be with their kids their age outside playing, we figured, why not? And so the transient room tax numbers, they are starting to improve as well with the more events that we could bring here. The next, and this part was shocking to me as I went to our building department. It seems like everywhere you're looking, either homes are being sold as fast as they go on the market, development is happening everywhere, and when you pull the numbers, it really is true. So for the first 3 quarters of this year, we have had more building permits than all of last year combined. So we have had 592 building permits so far this year, for a 55% increase over last year, which just goes to show that the notion of being able, one thing COVID has shown the world is you can have a quality of life, and that now that we have fiber to homes and we have gotten some of those things, you can work here the same that you can work somewhere else, and you have the quality of life. You don't have traffic, and it is possible to do what just 5-10 years ago would never have been able, people would not have been able to do that. And so truly for our community, things are falling into place. The pandemic has actually been good for our economy, which is a very unusual thing to say. The tourism industry, the hospitality industry are the two that have been hit the hardest. But when I was talking to people from the governor's office, like just a couple weeks ago, they were floored that we've had businesses opening, we've had restaurants opening, we've had restaurants that have opened and thrived during this pandemic time, when so many other places you just see all these same type of businesses going under. Moving forward, here's a few things that we want to let you know about, that you might have heard discussions about, and let you know what it is. So Utah Inland Port, and as I see Frank back there, he is very well aware of this slide as the amount of meetings we have had. So Utah Inland Port, you've probably on the news seen the protests, the fact that they've had to like sneak the board out the back door as the rioters come in and everything else. Well, that's not how we do things in Cedar City. So what has happened is the Utah Inland Port would have the main port in Salt Lake in the 3rd quadrant, where you've heard all the protests, but they're looking at satellite areas throughout the town where, just like our amazing monument from Gappion that's stuck in the port in California, it would ease that congestion. You could rail the items here, they could be unloaded, it would do jobs, it would have manufacturing. In the, one of the biggest bottlenecks is they're unloading these containers. You have the last step of the manufacturing and putting together all the component parts. We have a major hay exportation and international exportation companies right here in Iron County that are having to truck down to California and deal with these different ports. Well, we're working with the state to say one of these satellite ports can go out west of town. It would make it, we have access to rail, we have access to a day's drive to California. Everything you need is right here, and it would provide jobs. We have the infrastructure, we have the land, and we're willing to work with you. And so this is a big one that we are working on the state with, because the possibilities for our community, for our county, are kind of limitless as far as both helping our residents and also bringing additional jobs and revenue to the county. The next really exciting one is the Rural Co-working and Innovation Center. So many of you maybe have heard of like a makerspace before. That's really kind of a hot buzzword that's been thrown around. Well, we want to do things a little bit different. As these communities, or these companies, are startup companies, sometimes you don't know what you don't know. And there's no better way to learn and to work with that than going to a space that has the 3D printers, that has some office space, that has the tech support, that has everything. And instead of what you see in other communities where they just built this beautiful, nice building and threw the equipment in there and have these companies and kind of say, okay, the space is available. We actually want to take you and work with Southwest Tech and work with SUU and train the individuals on the equipment that's there, give them some help with business plans, and try to make these new startups that will inevitably create jobs for our community as likely to succeed, and give them as many tools as possible for their success, instead of just throwing them in a center, patting ourselves on the back and saying, okay, we got a center for you and now you need to figure everything else out on your own. We have all of the partners, and all the partners want to and are eager to work together, which is our way here in Cedar City. The Rural Innovation Initiative is a really exciting thing. So Cedar City is one of 10 communities throughout the United States that was selected for this. They help create and help execute a strategy for this exact type of thing that I'm talking about, is how do we improve on our rural companies, our rural startups, rural workforce, all of that. And we are one of the 10 that have been selected throughout the United States to participate in this program. And then our historic downtown. We had a group even just last, woo, I broke it. So we have 6 areas that, or 6 acres of potential beautiful land right downtown, that a number of groups are working together to see what can be the best possible use for that. It's in an opportunity zone, which can help do tax credits for investors. We're one of the only places in the state that has our historic downtown that's actually in one of these opportunity zones. And so we have so much going for us, both now and in the future, that it's a really exciting time to be planning, preparing, and being a resident of this amazing community. And once again, we see that when the going gets tough, there's no community that comes together quite like Cedar City and quite like Iron County. And so if there are any questions, I don't know how much time I still have.
10 minutes.
I'm happy to answer any questions. If there's anything specific, I didn't know if you normally if people want to have some questions.
Yeah, you got 7 minutes. We'll get the first.
So I have 7 minutes. Yes.
You mentioned mineral was an export from our community in our area. And I have a question on how much mining is being done now. Are we shipping ore now still? I know that's probably the county and not the city, but do you know that?
Getting closer by the day. So there was a lot of items that had to be cleaned up as far as rail cars and all of that, and so they're not to shipping, but they're getting closer. And another one is the Alton coal mines, and this is right back in Frank's wheelhouse, because we've met with them a number of times, is if there was this port, the coal mines have talked about changing their route and using that as well.
Now, there's also, they're taking away the mountain of Cedar Canyon with gypsum.
Yes,
How much, what can you tell us about that?
not much. If you want the honest answer, I can make something really fancy up, or I can say I don't have a really good answer for you.
Good, that's good.
And I will leave it to, I don't have a really good answer for you, but they're all different entities that will come together if this inland port goes as both exports and then the import aspect. The nice thing that we would have with this is so often you see trucks that are going one way or the other way empty, and this would help fill them going both ways, so that, I mean, it helps our people and it would, our exporters, and it would also help with import things and items being imported and the job creation that would come from that. Yes.
So the 592 building permits, are those just Cedar City? Or
Those are just Cedar City.
Just Cedar?
Yes. I could have the county numbers, but I don't, because I care more about Cedar City. That's terrible to say,
Well,
but
that's your responsibility. Yeah.
the building permit or building department that I am directly good or bad work with is ours. So it's that many of just Cedar City building permits. And if you look around, you can, you can see that much is happening.
So what's a micropolitan? How do we say
It's smaller than a
Metropolitan.
metropolitan. They didn't have a really good definition. I just liked the word. So we stuck to the fact that there was no great, it literally was smaller than a metropolitan. Bigger, and I was like, yeah, it's a fun word.
Yeah, there you go.
And it makes us sound really fancy. So when you say it, nobody really, they're like, oh. Really, truly, I said that to the state, and they all kind of perked up. They don't, I'm like, none of you know what this means either, but it sounds fancy, so. Yeah.
But it is kind of like a double-edged sword a little bit, right? Because, I mean, we are in this micropolitan, so to speak, and it is a wonderful, amazing place. But, and we love everybody that has come, but there's also this piece of, we don't want to get discovered too much, because we don't want to become this metropolitan.
Correct,
And then
yeah,
it also
correct.
brings infrastructure problems. And I mean, Main Street even now is starting to feel more clogged than it used to be. And so how do you
Yes.
manage all of that?
I will tell you, I am the first person that gets so frustrated if I happen to sit through more than one stoplight. It is like the road rage of just pure anger of what has happened to our town. The hardest thing and the most important thing to me is that we don't lose our sense of community. What makes Cedar the place that we all love, and the reason why we have groups like this, and the reason that you see all of the amazing things is because we are a community, first and foremost, and we want to work together. We want to continue the volunteerism, the spirit of our heritage. I mean, the fact that we have a sheep parade, all of those things that make Cedar such an amazing gem, that we don't want to lose that. And so, I mean, we have had amazing people that have moved into our community that want to give back. And those are the types of residents that we want, and it's making sure that when people move here, we embrace them and bring them into what is expected of Cedar City. I mean, it's expected that when you're a resident of this community that you'll give back and that you'll be a part of this community. It's not expected that you're gonna come here and try to turn Cedar into California. That's why people left California. And so it's trying to keep the volunteerism, inviting neighbors, inviting friends to join us, to take part in what we're doing, and not just letting everybody silo off in their little areas. Because if you're willing to move here to be a part of the community, then we'll welcome you wholeheartedly. Yes.
So it seems like Cedar's always done really well in the summer. We've always had great things, fun things going on in the summer. And kudos to whoever got the ball teams coming in. That's fantastic. The challenge it seems like we've always had is for hotels, restaurants, and people is in the winter. And what is the city, with the ice rink moving out, what is the city doing to try to maybe see if there's a way we can stop our town from just being a seasonal town, but to maybe have some more year-round opportunities?
So one thing we're doing this year, and this one's less about visitors, it's more about community. So this Saturday after Thanksgiving, mark your calendars, we will do, especially if you have children, we're doing in connection with the Festival of Trees, Jubilee of Trees, I think is the right name. I can't remember. One of the names is trademarked, one of the names is the one we use. So those lawyers, you can't, gotta watch out for those. We're doing the lighting of all the lights down Main Street and the portion of Center Street that will be new this year. Santa will fly in on a helicopter, and we will do a really fun, family-friendly activity that corresponds with the opening of the Jubilee of Trees. Like I said, that one's more community-based, but we are constantly looking and working. We have a new events director. We're working with them to come up with a strategy of what are different winter activities that can come. The weird part is this year it's still almost 80 degrees at the end of October. So we're hoping that we actually have a winter and that we have some snow
It's coming next week.
It'll be here.
Last year, the biggest snowstorm of the year happened the night that we did the tree lighting. So I would suspect that just because that's the way life works, that will be the biggest snowstorm of the year. But we're looking at what will work. The ice rink is now at Woods Ranch. It's a hard phrase. That is still an option. We had talked about working with that group to put it in across the street from Main Street Park and turning that into more of a winter wonderland. I personally would still like to see that come true. So just because this year the rink has gone up there doesn't mean that in the future something like that can't happen. I think that would just be truly magical for our community to have kind of a winter wonderland in downtown. It would help our downtown. And you could drive through the beautiful tunnel of Christmas lights through the ice rink. So none of these options are off the table, and they're constantly things we're exploring and trying to work even with the Lodging Association to see what can work, what different things, like this Belgian waffle ride. It was a totally different type of event than we've had before. It was a gravel cycling event instead of the road, so it didn't take nearly the staff or the impact on our infrastructure because they're up on gravel courses. And so there's always different things out there that we're willing to try. Nothing's off the table. And so it's this is just a weird time with 2020, but we are bound and determined to make the best of it and to continue to pursue all different options. Yes.
My name
They had a soccer tournament also for Labor Day weekend, the Surf
Yes.
Invitational. That brought so many people and they brought them from Thursday and they left on Monday. So they were here for several days and
So we-
people are just loving this area.
We had baseball, we had softball, or soccer tournaments going on, and a lot of the places have said, your weather is so nice. We didn't know that the facilities and the weather and all of this existed, so we want to book again for next year. And so that's one thing is the tourists that come in, are here for a few days, spend their money and go away, are some of the best type that we like. And this is like the most inappropriate speech that I've given, but whatever. So we love
I won't
that.
quote you.
And so like, that's the thing is, the more that we can find where they come in, spend money at our businesses, don't stay to impact our infrastructure and go back home, that's what we're continuing to pursue both for summer and winter going forward. And I think do I have time for one more question?
Let's give her a hand, and then if you have questions, you can come up and ask her.
Yeah.